Every entrepreneur has a story. Welcome to Happy Half Hour with an Entrepreneur, where each episode your host, Brian Carney, will share a drink with a successful business owner and have them discuss their unique journey, gaining insight on what it takes to be an entrepreneur and the different ways to get there. Brian isn't just a beer nerd, he's also the co-founder of River's Edge Advisors, a financial planning firm headquartered in Delaware, specializing in working with business owners. It's time to pour yourself a drink and enjoy a happy half hour with an entrepreneur.
Hey everyone, welcome to Happy Half Hour with an Entrepreneur. I'm your host, Brian Carney. My guest today is Luca Zambello, co-founder and CEO of Jurny, a technology-based hospitality company that is completely changing the typical hotel user experience. Luca is an expert within the hospitality industry, and he's been featured in Forbes, Bloomberg, and Entrepreneur magazine. Luca, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, cheers. So for the show today, I'm going to be drinking a beer called Still Night by Tonewood Brewery in Oakland, New Jersey. It's a session stout. Now, you are in California and I'm on the East Coast, so the time change makes it socially inappropriate for you to be having alcohol. So you're going to be sticking with coffee today. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes, I'm having my Italian espresso.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'm excited to talk to you today. So tell us a little bit about Jurny.
Yeah, definitely. So we're big believers in automations, and we observe like how technologies have changed many industries. Like for transportation, Uber, right? It revolutionized the taxi industry, and now, like obviously, when self-driving cars are going to be coming out, that's completely revolutionizing how the whole transportation industry works.
Yeah,
and TV with streaming, right? And every industry is changing quite a bit. And one of the few industries that we noticed that hasn't changed and has not, really benefit from all this technology was hospitality.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look actually even in markets like China, there's like fully automated hotels. And then you look in US and Europe, and we're kind of far away from that reality. And so really our goal and our mission as a company was to bring technologies in this industry to enhance the experience, both from a guest standpoint and from a owner standpoint. So if you're a manager or if you own your own hotels, this can be a really great tool to empower you to now compete with some of the largest hotels. Really our mission was to bring this into the market, and we have a two-side marketplace where we help owners or managers of hospitality assets, and they can be like Airbnb, someone who manages like 10 plus Airbnbs, or someone who manages like a single boutique hotel or a chain of boutique hotels. And we help them basically fully automate everything that it comes down to with the logistics of running these hotels, and completely automating the guest experience.
That's interesting.
So like guests can book online, they can check in online on a mobile app, they can control the room temperature, they can open whatever door they want, everything through a mobile app. And at the same time, we give the owners the option of managing their cleaner virtually, have noise monitoring system so that they know if a room is being too loud before another guest complains, automated pricing, automated review management. So those are like some of the pieces that we put together, and then we make the management of an asset now that much easier and that much more profitable, which allows them now to compete with larger hotels. From a guest experience standpoint, which is the other side of the market.
Yeah.
Now, it's important. We help these hotels owners with distribution. So all the properties that these Airbnb host hotel owners are listed, when they listen to our platform, we automatically list them on Airbnb, Booking.com, Expedia. So all the major channels.
Yep.
But we also list them on the Jurny app. And this is something that we're doing and that we're building kind of like quietly without really like investing money, because it's growing organically, because every time the clients just comes into our platform, their inventory also gets updated into our app.
Makes sense.
And what's happening is that we're building this large inventory, what we call it instantly accessible property. What it means is that we want to give you just as easy as it is to get a bird, right? Like a bird scooter. When you're on the road, you can see where they are and you can just scan it and just book it and utilize it. We want to make the same thing. We're actually already doing it with rooms, whether if it's an Airbnb home, an Airbnb apartment, or a hotel room.
That's it. So you have these two sides of the business. Which one was born first? The manager side, the hotel owner side, or the Airbnb owner side, or the actual person that's going to be the guest side, I guess?
Yeah. So the idea for us was actually to build what we said, a Uber type of experience for the hospitality industry.
Yeah.
That's where we started. That was like definitely the first step, but in order to achieve that, I realized that is a lot more complicated than people think.
For sure.
And in order to do that, they have to use, it's like similar like Tesla with self-driving cars. The self-driving cars, they need to have the proper hardware in order to be able to be capable of doing that.
Yeah.
It works very similar with us, with our assets. They need to have the proper hardware installed and the proper software that runs them, so that we can then attach it to a booking channel in order to do this fully automated experience. So in order to build what we wanted to build originally, which is like this next generation booking channel, let's put it that way, we had to actually create a B2B solution in the market. And this B2B solution needs to be very, very compelling and good to get mass adoption.
Right.
Because if you get mass adoption, then we're going to get infinite amount of inventory and actually make revenue and profits while we do that, right?
Yeah. So what was your background? What prior to starting and launching this business? What was your background, and how did you see this as a business opportunity?
Well, I'm originally from Italy. I was born and raised there. I started multiple small businesses then, and then one of the things that I did when I actually, my first real business, I was about 19, and I just saw like a lot of limitations in Europe in general. I think especially in Italy, like I think opportunities for young people with great ideas.
Yeah.
It's not the place to be. It's a great place to live, but not a great place to be if you're very much ambitious. And I don't know, I grew up like looking at tech startups in US. Like that's what was my dream. I was seeing like companies like Facebook or YouTube, just like young guys just like starting with an idea and be able to grow these massive companies. And I always had an inspiration of one day having a tech company, and I said, well, it's not going to happen if I leave here.
Yeah.
And my English was also terrible at the time, so like terrible to say the least. And luckily my family always said, like, once you are done studying, you have to take care of yourself, but if you want to study, we'll help you. So it's like, you know what, I want to go study English in US. So I came originally to study English, and then I did a certificate in marketing at UCLA.
Wow.
To continue my studies. And that was my excuse to come here. And when I came here, I started kind of working almost like right away. Like after about a couple of years that I was here, I got into the nightlife industry. I became a nightlife promoter in Hollywood.
Okay.
that was not my aspiration, but it was like, I don't know anyone. What's a great way to start building a network? And
sure.
and that's what I did pretty successfully, actually, for about like 2.5, 3 years. Build a network with people, and then one day one client just asked for a house to rent a house for an event. And I was looking online. This is like 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
I was looking online and I couldn't find anything. And I was like, I live in a city with millions of villas and mansions. I'm like, it's impossible. Nobody's renting them out. Like,
Right.
So I asked around and finally meet this broker, and I knew that just out of word of mouth, that was his business. So just rent short term this massive villas. And I was like, okay, there's a business opportunity there. I created a landing page, started creating ads for luxury villas in LA. And on year one, we did, it was me and a personal assistant, we did $1.2 million in revenue.
Holy crap.
Yeah, so we're like, okay, there's definitely a market opportunity here.
Yeah.
That type of business itself wasn't super scalable. And then, larger company came up like Airbnb, and VRBO really became a thing.
Sure.
Where back then where like very few people were using them. And so I got into the property management to manage properties. But again, like I was doing those things purely to make money.
Right.
And then I saw the opportunity, and that's where I saw the opportunities of automations, because I was like, okay, if you want to have a management company in this space, Airbnb opened up a brand new industry. It allowed people know Airbnb for home sharing, but honestly, like the largest economy of Airbnb, it's private professional hosts.
Sure.
And it's becoming more and more about professional hosts. Like a company like Sander, for example, over $1 billion of valuation, would never exist if it wouldn't be for Airbnb.
Yeah.
Airbnb is what allowed all these companies to start.
Yeah.
Because now I give a platform to somebody that is not a professional hotelier to now become a professional hotelier.
Yeah.
Basically.
Well,
and
go ahead. Yeah. Finish your thought. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And that's really like where I started seeing the opportunity. I said, Airbnb allowed more people to now get into the hospitality industry. It lowered dramatically the barrier to entry. And it's more importantly shifted how things have been done, especially for the hotels that have been doing it for a long time.
Right.
They are kind of fighting against what they call OTA, like Airbnb, Booking.com. They're fighting against them versus like working with them. But it's a mistake, because look where Sander became, thanks to the fact that they embraced the fact that this OTAs work. Right. So we saw the opportunity in terms of marketability of assets, and then we saw the opportunity in terms of the fact that we saw all these operations and these companies like just scaling very quickly, and they were really lacking what we call an operating system.
Sure.
Like a real OS, right? Like, how do you run the hardware? Right now,
something to glue it all together.
Yeah. Nowadays, people use what is called a PMS, a property management software.
Yeah.
A PMS, it's a skeleton that allows you to build things on top. Mm-hmm. Okay. But it's not a finished system. It's like buying a motherboard on a computer, and then you have to put all the pieces together, and then you have to develop the software. Mm-hmm. That's what the industry is today.
Yeah.
We build a computer.
Right.
This is a finished product. You don't need to know how hardware works. You don't need to know how a software works.
Yeah.
Everything runs, and we have services even on top that they will run it for you if necessary. And you just focus on the guest experience and the on-ground hospitality. And that's really how the company started. That's where we saw the opportunity. And 4 years ago, we launched a company.
That's amazing.
It's called Jurny.
I'm fascinated by two things. First of all, I'm fascinated by you as a young kid growing up in Italy, not dreaming about being like a professional soccer player, or like here, kids in the U.S. grow up thinking they're going to be in the NBA or the NFL or Major League Baseball. But you actually are looking at these tech companies and saying, that's what I want to do from a young age. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. And then secondly, to take it even a step further, you go, well, I can't do that here in my country. I need to leave to go to the US to do it. That takes a lot of, so how old were you when you came here? You were in college?
21.
21?
Came here. Yeah.
That's crazy.
20, yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely crazy to be able to do that. I'm fascinated also by what it's like to start a tech company in California, right? How's that process been?
Yeah, it's been a journey. So one great thing that happened, well, number one, like what I love about US is that people talk about the American dream and stuff like that, and I have to say it's real, right? Maybe it's harder than it used to be.
Yep.
I'm not gonna I don't know how it was, so I cannot speak to that, but I can speak to the fact that it's real. I came here and I didn't know anyone, and
Wow.
but number one, culturally, I think is one of the best culture in terms of like helping each other out. Like people, you can go to another entrepreneur and ask how you did it, and you have a 50% chance they're going to tell you.
Yep.
That's a much higher percentage anywhere else in the world. I guarantee you that.
Yeah. I think that's a really, really good point. I think that's a really unsung part about I guess the society in general here is that for the most part, most people do want to help each other out. And I do think, the, hey, can I pick your brain and buy you lunch thing is actually a pretty legitimate way to do it. And people give you honest feedback, which I think is really valuable.
100%. I think that's number one. And the real reason why I understood that, like, what I got in nightlife, although I haven't been in a club in 10 years now.
Right.
but the real reason why I want to do that is because I understood, like, there's people we wanted to go out, and somehow I'm sure I'm going to meet entrepreneurs there. And I did. That was that's step number one. That I actually started meeting people there. The second step was when I launched the housing website. I got an office at WeWork.
Uh-huh.
It was actually the first WeWork outside of New York.
Wow.
The one in Hollywood.
Okay.
And I got an office at WeWork, and there were so many startups there.
Yeah.
And that's where I was like, okay, I want to learn from these people. And I would just literally walk people's offices. Hey, what do you do? How do you get here? How do you get to do this? And how did you get to raise money? And like, that's how I learned. Like, I didn't know any of it. Like, it's a craft to know how to raise money. And I definitely learned it thanks to other people. Like, I did not study that in school. Yeah. And I had no clue how to do it at the beginning. And I think, like, that was like super, super powerful. And then the second thing that I did was actually reaching out to people, and then on LinkedIn, and like knowing this person knows this person, asking people to introduce me to other people.
Yeah.
And really, one of the things I love to learn out whenever I met someone that is more successful than me, or even as successful as me or less successful, I ask, how did you get there?
Yeah.
What did you do?
You can always learn something. That's it. Really, another good point you bring up about WeWork. It seems to me that wasn't an original point of WeWork, but I've talked to multiple people that have said all the startups being incubators there together, and just the collaboration because you're around each other has really helped, launch a lot of these companies. That's pretty cool to hear.
Definitely. I think that was one of the things that they definitely did right. Yeah. So it was a powerful tool for sure.
Yeah. So you've been raising money for Jurny, which is I'm interested in this as well. How difficult has that been to go in? I mean, you've raised a significant amount of money, so how difficult has that been for you guys to do?
Well, I think, whenever you do it once already, like, I think the second time will definitely be easier. Like, there's the learning curve has been there.
Right.
I think at this stage that we're at right now, obviously during the pandemic, like, it was hard because we're in hospitality, and like, people didn't want to talk about hospitality, and we needed to raise money right in the middle of the pandemic. And I surviving I would say more than half of the businesses in our industry didn't survive the pandemic.
Right.
And it was definitely something not easy. But it wasn't easy because of the pandemic, not because of the nature of the business, or because we didn't know how to raise money. Like, we're getting to a stage right now where we actually have people wanting to put money and we're telling them no, because we don't want to raise money right now.
Yeah.
We want to raise money in a little bit, and it's going to be a proper round with a proper evaluation. But like, things change when you build a real business and you start getting real traction. Things change. The hard piece is in the beginning. When you're unproven, you're like early seed round, like maybe not even ready for that, and seed rounds are becoming bigger and bigger, so you have to be more ready. You have to,
and you can't even tell someone, hey, we already raised X amount of dollars. Like, hey, we haven't we've raised $0 so far.
Zero. And guess what? I have not worked for any of the major tech companies.
Right.
I don't come from the Silicon Valley. My background for what you value is almost zero. So how about you give me like $4 million to create this like crazy idea?
I promise it's a great idea. Yeah.
I promise it's exactly. That's hard.
Yeah.
That part was hard. It took us quite a bit. And again, during the pandemic, it was a bit harder, but now it's all about execution. The more we execute, the more money we can raise, and the higher the valuation is going to be.
Yeah. So let's talk about the pandemic, because arguably there's no industry that was harder hit than hospitality. So you are starting a tech business for hospitality in the middle of a pandemic, trying to raise money. So obviously that's difficult, but were there any positives for you that you come looking back on? I mean, obviously we're still in the pandemic, but are there any positives that come out of it that you can look back on and go, you know what, that was actually a good part about it?
Yeah. I mean, I think in distress moments is when the biggest opportunities arise.
Mm-hmm.
Me, if I was an investor at the time, and that's not saying anything to any other investor, but just me personally, as a person, I'm a contrarian. I love to go against trends.
Yeah.
I do that with, I do that in the crypto market. Like, I buy when nobody buys and I sell when everybody buys. Like, and if you look, anyone that makes real good money and has a really good investment, that's usually what they're capable of doing, right?
That's Warren Buffett. That's his exact rule.
100%.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
But why I'm saying that is because, during the pandemic, if I was an investor, I would have 100% probably invest all my money into hospitality, because that eventually a solution is going to get out there.
Sure.
And if you actually double down to a company that has really big potential, when the pandemic is going to be over, that company is going to have an edge versus everyone else, and it's going to be a much bigger edge than anything else.
That's a good point.
And actually that happened to us, because although it was super hard to raise money, we were able to raise money. We raised a $9.5 million round. It was the second round that we raised, and we were able to now, like, come in an industry where everyone, actually the first thing that they stopped investing in, it was technology and R&D. And I'm like, it's insane. And that's literally what we did in the pandemic. We doubled down on that. Like, even before we raised the money, we were doubling down on technology and creating and really elevating this the tech stack in our platform. So if anything, the pandemic put us maybe 3 or 4 years ahead out of the competition. Yeah. And this is not just like, I'm not talking about that people stopped investing in technology, just the small player. I'm talking about even some of the large players that were like, okay, this is a side project, we put it on the side. Sure. Even vehicles have done the same thing with electric vehicles. Yep. Most of them paused the R&D on electric vehicles, and that's a big mistake. You have to double down. During those times, like, you can't just like go against the trend that is going there. Now you're just giving more market to someone else. Yep. Right.
It's very. I'm sure you know this story, but from what I understand, that's how the iPod was created during the time of financial crisis. I can't remember the years, but Steve Jobs insisted that they not cut R&D, they actually invest more of it. And through that investment, they came up with the iPod, which eventually leads to the iPhone. And, like literally to your exact point, when everyone else is cutting R&D, they were doubling down. So, I mean, that's you're in good company with that decision there.
Yes.
The other thing I find interesting about your world is that the hospitality business is so stale and so set in their ways and sort of just that conventional thinking. We're doing it this way because this is the way it's always been done. And you guys are, trying to kick that door down and turn that upside down. How difficult has that been as part of your businesses to try to change that old school way of thinking?
So that's a great question, especially for someone who's not in hospitality. That's good that you saw you captured that. It's I think that's our biggest opportunity.
Yeah.
The fact that people just wanted to do it just the same way. This is the biggest opportunity because luckily the industry is getting not luckily for them, but it is getting kicked by this new tech hospitality companies.
Yep.
Like the standards of the situation. I keep repeating them because they're the biggest, but there's many.
Sure.
And then by the large hotels, and by the fact that they're fighting against all the OTAs, the Airbnb and Booking.coms of the world. So, and then a pandemic arrived, it made their life even harder.
Yes.
So the fact they're set on their own ways is actually hurting them quite a bit. And many of them are looking for a change, but until now, changing was very hard. Very hard, because you had to build the system yourself.
Yep.
We're giving you like a turnkey solution that is going to fix for all those things, and you don't have to become. One of the things that I start noticing that all these hospitality companies start having CTOs, and you're like, the hospitality company has a CTO. There's so much technology and software and things that you have to learn, that you have to have actual technology department to handle this.
Yeah.
But no one got into hospitality because they wanted to be in tech, aside from us and a few others, right?
Sure.
Like most people are in hospitality because they want to host guests.
Sure, right.
They want to create an experience for guests. That was not it. Just like when somebody opens a business, I don't think their dream is to deal with accounting.
Mm-hmm.
This is just becoming one more piece that I have to deal with.
Yep.
And some of these people are in their 60s or 70s, and it's harder for them to have to do this change. So we're actually setting ourselves up to be the probably only solution right now in the market. And luckily, we have a pretty massive market to tackle before these people can change their mind, right?
Yeah.
Or already there's people that are changing their mind, but the entire industry of the new Airbnb hosts, those people are forward looking.
Mm-hmm.
And they're bootstrapped, so they have to operate with very minimal capital, and so they're forced to optimize their business because otherwise they wouldn't survive, right? Because they're not typical hotel. So these people are already in look for solutions like that. So usually when they hear about us, and they're like, okay, this is what I've been looking for. Thank you for the product. Hotels need a little bit more education, but we're getting there, and eventually we think there's just going to be a mass adoption. And the industry is massive.
For sure. You bring up an interesting word.
For that.
Yeah, definitely. You bring up an interesting word, and I wanted to see how it worked in your world. You said the word optimize. What's it like to have to balance the need for capital while you're building this technology, and sort of have to give some sort of return to your investors or show progress to your investors without rushing it to market, so you can make that platform completely optimized?
It's tough because in hindsight, it's just like like an investor doesn't in the beginning, it doesn't really trust you unless they have an existing relationship. So they can't give you a stupid amount of money right away.
Mm-hmm.
But by doing that, then you don't have enough capital to build what you want to build.
Yes.
So what we did I think it's the only way to go about it, if you don't have the reputation to raise the adequate amount of capital, right? For us, it would have been like having to raise like, $7-8 million out of the door, right? And maybe more, right? So what we did something that will help both things. Will help the development of the technologies, but at the same time start bringing revenue. So what we did, we started as a management company. We said, you know what? Let's sell a management product, because if we sell a management product, people don't have to look exactly how things works. And while we're doing that, we're going to start building the tech stack.
Right.
So we build a company that does what we're now selling to. Now we're selling to other management company, but first we became a management company ourselves. But it has accomplished actually two amazing things. One is the fact that we're operators ourselves first. And so by being operators and doing the job yourself, this is something actually that I live by myself. I from my own, as a CEO of the company, I've actually done everybody's job at one point.
Right.
Probably poorly, but I've been in every single position in our company, including customer support, because I needed to know I cannot delegate or properly hire someone if I don't know what they have to do.
So you're so right about that.
And just like it works for me as a CEO, it works for us as a company. So we cannot know what these people needs are if we were not operators first. And by being operators and using all this technology, we were able to be a management company that runs at a 70% profit margin and charging way less than what a regular management company would charge. And then we proved that, and we said to other management company, hey, look at this. This is what we built, and this is what we were capable of doing. Now you can take this and just run it and take most of the profits yourself, because we only need this much. So that's how we did it. And that's how we start building the traction and start building enough business, enough volume to then raise the larger round to then finish our product. It's finished, I say finish, but the word finish is incorrect in tech because it will never finish.
Never be finished, always can be upgraded, yes.
But at least to a stage that is like, can be sold and scaled.
Love it. Yeah, that's great. So you guys have patents and trademarks, or do you have to go through that whole process?
Yeah, I mean, we probably could do it on more things. We just did it on some of the things that we thought those were essential. We're still patent pending because it takes quite a bit to get a patent, but especially on the access system side of things, there was a, the technologies were there, but there was not like a software that kind of glued them all together. Like, like for example, Yale develops locks for single family homes, the smart locks that they develop. They're not meant to be used for a commercial hospitality purpose. And there's no real company focused on that. So that's where we focus a lot of our effort, because we understood that if we can fully automate from booking to check-in to checkout, the entire guest experience, where they don't have to talk to anyone, you reduce the amount of hourly cost for a hotel like dramatically.
For sure.
And then you can do the same exact thing with your cleaners, repairs, and maintenance, and have an overview exactly who's in which units, how long they've been there, who's cleaned that unit. Like, for example, that's another amazing thing. Like, we know which cleaner cleaned what unit, and they have a rating that is directly correlated to public and private reviews.
Right.
Like, that gives you an overview of what's happening. And these are jobs that people are doing right now. But doesn't mean that we're saying like, okay, we want to remove these people and not take jobs away from these people. Well, number one, there's job shortage in many markets that of doing those specific jobs.
For sure.
But at the same time, also what we're doing is we're saying like, people that want to win in hospitality right now, they have to focus on guest experience. A front desk brings zero value to a guest. When you have to come to an hotel and you have to give a passport or your ID and confirm your payments that you already done online, like which makes no sense.
Yes.
Right. It just just brings zero value.
Yeah.
Repurpose those people for example, for a full 24/7 concierge if you want to.
Yeah.
Repurpose those people to elevate the guest experience in different ways, more room amenities, more like personal touch in the room. Those are the things that you can now afford to do that actually brings direct value to your guests versus if front desk doesn't accomplish anything.
Yeah.
Right?
Nothing worse than checking into a hotel and having to stand in that line. It's, to be able to like get off the shuttle or the whatever, and then you get to actually walk to your room and use your phone to get right in your room. That's huge.
Huge.
It's, what's kind of interesting that you're talking about is I feel like there's this whole sub industry of tech, of integration, getting all the technology to work together. We see that in our industry with our tech stack. And, we're always like, well, does that integrate with this? And does that integrate with that? It seems like that is a real skill and talent and a real way to do well in this world, is if you can take multiple forms of technology and integrate them all together. Well,
you bring it up with like an amazing point, because that's exactly what we did, and we did it even better. Like, I want to say even better, but we did it like in a way that we actually built a vertically integrated system. So we looked at the industry. What didn't exist or wasn't proper, we built it.
Yep.
And what existed and was amazing, we integrated with.
Yeah.
But not through public API that it's like limited functionality and it doesn't work properly. No, we created a custom integration still through an API connection, but it's a custom API for us.
Yep.
That works with our system. So now you have a single, from our user standpoint, and a user, I mean a hotel owner or an operator, you have a single place that you go to, a single dashboard, a single fee. You don't have to pay. You can do what we do today. Not that good, let's say 60% of what we do today. But it's going to take you 20,000 development hours, and you have to pay fees to like 15 to 20 vendors.
Yeah.
And those fees are going to be a lot higher than our fees.
Yep.
Because half of the things we do it ourselves, the other half we have economy of scale on.
Yep.
So it makes no sense for someone that has sub 10,000 units.
Yep.
To really build their own system.
For
it
sure.
Doesn't.
Yep. That's awesome. Now I think like I said, I think it's a real skill to be able to drop your ego and say, hey, that technology is good. We don't need to redo that one. This doesn't exist. Let's kind of do everything together and make it a patchwork. I think there a lot of times in business world, I think the ego gets in the way. Well, like I can do that one better. Well, why spend those 20,000 hours of doing it if it already exists?
Yeah.
Yep. So the last question I wanted to ask you is, I think a lot of business owners deal with this, but you do have a business partner. You started the business with a business partner. How's that experience been? Because, I always say that that's like being married, and you probably spend more time with your business partner than you do with your spouse.
Yes, especially in the beginning. I think as the company grows, you get different responsibilities in the company and different roles.
Yeah.
But it's about how you operate as a person. You need someone who you can run ideas by, and you need someone that will challenge your ideas.
Yep.
You need someone who can support you when there's downtime. Like it's hard to be at 100% all the time by yourself.
For sure.
So those are all the pros. The cons is I had 2 bad partnerships before a good partnership.
Yeah.
So it's a tricky thing, because you have to be very careful on who you choose, how you choose it. It's a whole conversation on just like knowing how to choose a partner, to be honest, like,
yes.
and which one is the right partner. And I think just setting things up right away, I think it's like any relationship, by the way, communication, I think, is the base of everything.
Yeah.
Like if you're not a good communicator, I am obsessive when it comes on to have an issue with someone and fixing it, like confronting that person immediately. It's an obsession of mine. Like I cannot go to sleep if I know that there's something that is still like pending.
Yeah, you got to clear the air. That's great.
Like if I feel tension, if I feel anything, this is my private life or business. I confront people right away, immediately.
Yeah.
If you don't have that personality, you should not have a business partner.
Right.
Because it's hard for me having that personality, having relationships in general. It's hard for anyone to have we make it work because I think I surround myself with people that have just as strong or at least pretty good like communication skills.
Yep.
If you don't have that, and both people need to have it, by the way. Like one can have it more than the other, whereas the person that confronts, but the other person needs to be open to be confronted.
Yes, you're right. Being able to confront an issue, the longer it lingers, the worse it gets, and then then you're fighting about something that's not really what you're fighting about. You know, I always say it's like you're fighting about him leaving his towel on the ground. Yeah, and that's not really what it's about. Yeah,
correct. You start fighting about like the water in the office, and you're like, why are we fighting about water in the office?
Yes, exactly. But I think that is a confrontation is a real important part about having a business partner, and you do need to work through the confrontation and not hold grudges and just be able to like have a short memory, like, hey, I'm over this. But more importantly, if you have the same or a similar long-term vision about where you want to take the company, you could sort of work everything out. There's going to be different ways you get to get there, but being able to have that same vision is really important.
I think that's in general, and another point that I think in general for any company, whether you have business partners, like, and once you get investors, they're going to be in a way business partners as well. Like,
for sure.
You know, like they're sitting on your board. So I think having a common vision of where the company needs to go, it's probably for maybe the most important thing. That's why people have, like, you know, companies have missions. It's probably the most important thing. And listen, if you're a startup, things will change. You have to have somewhat an abstract vision that is the same for everyone, right? Yep. That how you get there will change.
Mm-hmm.
That plan should change, because if you're not changing, you're probably doing something wrong. Because unless you're like extremely lucky that you got a plan and that plan works, but nothing goes as planned ever.
Yeah.
So, but having that common vision and just knowing that you want to go that direction, I think my business partner and I were like, you know, what do we want to do? We want to build an Uber for the hospitality. We want to build that instant booking and instant checking experience for the guest. That's the vision that we had, and that's what we literally. I remember still today that this was like a speed dating with investors, and we were saying like, that's what we want to build.
Yeah,
that's literally what we said. It's like, this is what we're doing today, which is not even close to that, but that's where we want to go.
Yeah,
and that's the first investor we got, and he gave us money based on that. So his vision is been aligned with us 100%.
Right.
With our vision.
Yep.
And mine and my business partner vision has been aligned to that. And the people we hire, we have to share that vision with them as well, because they have to educate the people that come. Like you said, we hire people, you know, we hire people that have MBAs and master in hospitality. Yep. And they come from schools and they've been taught things in a certain kind of way. You're not telling them that what they spend maybe $100,000 for,
yep,
you're changing it. And what they learn, it might not be the truth.
Yeah, right.
You want to change that. If you're not very clear on where the company needs to go, you're gonna find problems.
It's very true. That's awesome. Well, Luca, this is great. I really enjoyed talking to you today. I loved having you on. If you'd like to,
thank you for a great question.
Absolutely. If you'd like to learn more about Luca and Jurny, go to Jurny, which is JURNY.com. If you want to connect with me on the Untapped app to see how I rate all these beers that I drink, my username is brcarney7. To learn more about how our firm helps business owners with their financial planning, visit riversedgeadvisors.com. And to hear past episodes of the podcast, go to happy-half-hour.com. Now, I have to rate this beer. So my mother-in-law gave me this beer, so I'll give it a fair rating. I actually like it a lot. I'll give it a 4 out of 5. Definitely would drink it again. So, Luca, it was great. I really enjoyed our time together. Best of luck to you, and cheers.
Yeah, thank you. Cheers with my coffee.
Thank you for listening to Happy Half Hour with an Entrepreneur, sponsored by Rivers Edge Advisors. For more information on how Rivers Edge Advisors can help you, visit their website at riversedgeadvisors.com. If you'd like to connect with Brian Carney for business advice or just to share a beer, follow him on Instagram at riversedgeadvisors_LLC.